Imagine pouring 6 months into a project, handing it to someone you respect, and getting a review so dismissive it feels like a physical blow. Most people will spend the next 3 weeks stewing over how unfair the reviewer was. They vent to friends, replay the conversation at 2 a.m., and let that single rejection bleed into every other part of their week. But there is a second type of response. This person reads the exact same feedback, puts the laptop away, gets a full night's sleep, and wakes up the next morning ready to start the first revision. This divergence stems from a hidden cognitive reflex. It is the specific mechanism the brain uses to process reality in the milliseconds following a setback. In the 1st century, Stoic philosopher Epictetus argued human suffering could be managed through one directive: you must ruthlessly separate what is within your control from what is not. That 1,900-year-old theory was finally put to the test in 1966, when psychologist Julian Rotter operationalized it through his research on the locus of control. Rotter discovered that we tend to view the world in 2 distinct ways. An external locus assumes outcomes are dictated by outside forces, while an internal locus views outcomes as the direct result of personal actions. This chart illustrates the millisecond-fast choice the brain makes after a negative event. It either assigns the cause to the outside world, or it illuminates the internal path, treating the situation as something that can be acted upon. Learning to recognize which of these paths your brain defaults to is the first step in interrupting the cycle of psychological distress. If your brain defaults to an external reaction, you focus on the manager's unfairness or your own bad luck. Because you cannot change those variables, the brain registers the problem as unsolvable, which generates a feeling of helplessness. The internal reaction bypasses that feeling. By focusing strictly on actionable revisions, things you can physically change, the brain stays in a state of agency instead of paralysis. To see if this holds up, researchers conducted a meta-analysis of U.S. college students across 4 decades, from the 60s to the early 2000s. This chart correlates psychological profiles and mental health. Individuals with an internal locus show measurably lower rates of anxiety and depression. The data suggests our chronic anxiety often results from expending energy on variables outside our influence. Applying this requires a physical exercise. When a negative event occurs, immediately write 2 lists: what was within your control and what was not. The strategy is simple. You are only allowed to direct physical action and emotional bandwidth toward the first list. However, this dichotomy can be used as a justification for giving up too early. It is easy to label a difficult situation as not up to me, just to avoid the discomfort of trying to solve it. If a person faces a discriminatory hiring process and simply accepts the unfair outcome as outside their control, they are ignoring the legal or collective actions they could take to change that specific situation. A true internal locus doesn't mean ignoring systemic problems. It means focusing all your energy on the specific actions you can take to contest those problems, rather than just passively observing them. This isn't just about a single bad day. Your 20s are the critical window for cognitive training, because this is when you face the first wave of professional setbacks and rejections. Practicing the 2 lists across these lower-stakes early career hurdles begins to wire the brain's neural pathways toward an internal response. By the time you reach your 30s, what started as a difficult conscious exercise transforms into an automatic subconscious reflex. If you don't build this habit now, your emotional state will remain tied to the unpredictable actions of other people for the rest of your career. By your 40s, the variables become more rigid. Market conditions, institutional barriers, and pure chance are more severe and harder to move. Without an internal locus, a person can spend 2 decades exhausting themselves by throwing mental energy at these unchangeable, concrete realities. The trained mind instinctively identifies the immovable objects and immediately diverts its energy toward the actionable gaps, maintaining its momentum. By mastering the locus of control today, you ensure your future stability is defined by your own actions rather than the volatility of the world around you.